Okay, can we start?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're back at the falls now. Yeah, this area was developed in 74 and 5 with an EDA grant that Nambe got, and we spent approximately $75,000 to develop and build this area to sort of a modern day campground. And there's 6 shelters up there. There's 3 of them are about the same size. 2 of them are big, and the other is kind of in between. They're all made from adobe. This adobes are stabilized adobes and should withstand the weather pretty good. This is at the waterfalls. This area is known to most of the people as the Nambe Pueblo Waterfalls, and the area was developed in 75 and 74 and 1975 through a grant that Nambe got from EDA. 75% of the funds were initially allocated for developing this area, but then it was later decided to spend $100,000, which was a grant from EDA, or the total amount at the falls to develop it. $25,000 of the original grant was going to be used for building or adding on to the community center at the Pueblo, but we got other means of building a solar building now, so that's out of the question. We thought we'd use the other 25% for the waterfalls. This is a mountain on the east side of the falls. In I guess in the Nambe language it's called Pachuping. Nambe River flows right beneath the mountain here, and the stream is flowing west. The Nambe stream is very clear. It originates in the high mountains in the Sangre de Cristos. It's about 25 miles from here to where it originates under the Santa Fe Baldy, and the crystal clear water is very nice and people enjoy it quite a bit, and it enhances the use of the area because of the live stream and the campground or picnic ground. Fishing is not very good here, but there is some rainbow trout and fishing is permitted. It's sort of like any other used area. This is portions of this is the Nambe Valley, right at the little spot on the left, lower left hand corner there is the waterfalls that we're talking about, and moving up here is the gorge where the Nambe waterfalls actually are. There's the rock formation on the side there that looks sort of like a serpent, and it's in the wall, in the rock wall there. This is part of the dam that was completed in 1976. Bureau of Reclamation built this dam. It's about a $7.5 million project. It was it was built here. It took some special engineering because of fault lines and the geologic formation of the ground in the immediate area. Been very unstable. I guess they had to design this very specially. It's about 3/4 full now. This, in what are we now, last of September, and I'm sure this area will enhance irrigation and recreation. The area you see across there, that white area, is cut material that was used for the dam. There was a old pueblo right in there that the Nambes lived there a long time ago. I'm not sure exactly what year it was. I think it was around 1610 when this area was inhabited, and some of it was covered up, and when the dam is filled up, well, it'll all be covered up. Over here to the lower left, where the dirt bank is, there was also some Pueblos or some houses on that ridge. They were also covered up. This is getting back to Nambe Pueblo here, one of the old original homes on the east side of the Pueblo there. It's abandoned now, but I think the owners are beginning to fix it up again. You can see the new layers of adobes on top where they've worked that. That's one of the newer homes in the background there, where I think they were completed in about 1963 through HUD funded housing program. Most of the homes around the Pueblo are abandoned because of the people kind of moving away from the Pueblo and building homes outside of the original plaza here. That's the old community hall there, and the kiva, of course. Those logs are about 60 feet long, and they're at, say, about 3 feet in diameter that hold that kiva up. There's 4 of them across there, and then it's made of poles and other things inside, but those poles probably were brought down here from the mountains, and the nearest poles, or the nearest house logs of that size, are probably 10 miles away from here. So I imagine the people worked pretty hard to bring those down. That's one of the old original homes again here at the Pueblo, and the people are trying to restore these homes, but it's sort of a slow process. My grandmother used to live there where those 2 doors are. That house on the left is an arts and crafts building. The people of Pueblo make pottery and jewelry and so forth, and they sort of centralize their goods here and where, and they sell it out of this one place. Usually around the 25th, usually around the 15th of September on, the people of Nambe prepare for the annual feast day, which is on October the 4th. And the Pueblo itself and the plaza is cleaned up during or before the 4th. And the women and children and men and everyone participate in this cleanup. It's sometimes also known as community work, and which is probably a form of taxation to the people for living on the reservation. And although Nambe doesn't collect money as a tax resource, but it's paid maybe through work and labor and this sort of things. So every year about this time, it's the Pueblo is cleaned up, and sometimes in between also. But here the women are using brooms, which are made from a bush that grows out here called a rabbit brush or Apache plume. And this bush is cut down and it's used for sweeping the plaza. You can see some of the men in the background cutting weeds or hoeing it down. Then it's hauled out into some gully somewhere to prevent erosion, and some of the weeds and other debris that's taken out of here is used for that. And it's not a very pleasant job for the ladies because of the dust and dirt involved, but it's sort of a once or twice a year thing, and they don't mind it too much. The kiva again in the background, and October the 4th is usually a very nice time of the year. Usually the leaves and of the cottonwoods and the in the river, which is only a couple tenths of a mile away from the pueblo, turn to a golden yellow, and they're a pleasant sight to see. You can normally see the mountains on the west side of the west facing slope of the Sangre de Cristos also, which have a lot of poplars or aspens, and they also turn a nice yellow, sometimes reddish gold yellow, and it's really pretty, fluttering in the wind, you know, and the breeze. And around October the 4th, normally, if it's not raining, and it normally doesn't rain, the days are crispy, they're warm, and it's a very pleasant time of the year. I think it's one of the prettiest times of the year in this whole valley here, around the 1st through the 4th or the 5th of October. But that's when that's what this is here, preparation for the 4th. Here the church, which was completed last year and dedicated on August the 6th, the San Francisco de Assisi Church. This is a third church that Nambe has had. The first one was torn down, imagine, during the rebellions, and then the second one, the wall cracked, so it was unsafe to have it any longer, and they tore it down also. And this was built, this took 17 years to build. The interior is a modern day style. The Nambe people have participated in dances, and the Nambe Falls ceremonial, which is held on July the 4th, or which has been held on July the 4th for the last 17 years. That's how long it took to make enough money to complete this church. The only thing that's not new there in this church is the bell. The bell has been here for ages, you know, probably since the first church, but the rest is new. And we had pretty nice dedication ceremonies last year. Nambe is working on a plan to restore this old buildings here, or this old homes, and I don't think it's still in the planning stage on which way to go and how to develop this old homes, or to restore them only. I don't think they'll be made livable, but the outside will be restored. There used to be a row of homes right at the center of the plaza, and they were also torn down, I'd say maybe 30 years ago. And they just fell, and the roofs caved in, and just weathered away. Like I said earlier, the people kind of moved away to their farms. People have been farmers here at Nambe for a long time, and ranchers, and so they developed areas for agricultural uses, and that's where they moved out to from here. And Nambe is fairly well scattered out throughout the valley, and or the people are rather, and it's not too centralized, but maybe 10 families living this in the pueblo itself. That row of building I was talking about started about where this lady is with a broom, and work back. This is a artist's concept of the new solar heated building that's going to be built here at Nambe. The building that's there, this kind of a square rectangular one, is an existing building, and up to about the third pole that's standing up. After the third pole, the rest is going to be new. You can see the solar panels behind the flagpole there on top. That's where the sun will hit those panels, and that's how the heat is absorbed, and that's how the building will be heated. And we also started on this about a couple of years ago, and it's about probably 60% complete now. We hired a local architect to do this for us. This proposed recreation center, or it's not outdoor recreation in a way. It is probably outdoor recreation, but it's tennis, basketball, and this type of recreation. What this will be, it won't be camping or picnicking or fishing type recreation. It's strictly probably a couple-hour type recreation. And that building in the middle is the old day school. The day school was built in the mid-30s, and it's got this old Pueblo style architectural. It's got vigas, and it's a very sound building. The walls are adobes, and the building was a BIA building. It's going to be turned over to the tribe for to develop it for recreational purposes. And this is see, they're planning a swimming pool and dressing rooms and tennis courts and this sort of things, and it's gonna be a pretty good place for the people to kill a few hours after work, or even during maybe. But I think this will probably keep some of the kids out of trouble too if they had something there. The place itself is only 2 acres, but Nambe is planning on expanding either east or maybe south to accommodate all the things that are planned in the plan. So in order to get all of that, we need to expand to the sides a little bit and get some of that land around it. Okay, this is back at the center now. The blocks that are here, this pumice blocks, will be used for interior walls only. The exterior walls are adobe, and the adobes will probably, well, this will take a coat of plaster and all that good stuff to keep the weather out. It's got a frame footing, pumice block footing, and I think this building's about 300 or 3,000 square feet is what it has. The windows there are double insulated and will be. The solar panels will fit just above the top there. This is part of the interior walls again here, you can see, but I think this building will have we'll have a classroom, it'll have a library, it'll have a small museum, and it'll have several offices. And some of what Nambe wants to do is we'd like to get all the artifacts, pottery and so forth, that were dug up in the dam area, and have our own museum and have it in here in this building. We kind of feel that if it was taken from Nambe, maybe it ought to come back here so people can see it, and I think we'll have a safe place for keeping it. You know, it'll be under lock and key, and it won't disappear. So we'll have the same security as a museum would have if we can get some of the things back. And I was assured that by the anthropologists, and the people that did the digging were that we would get some of the things back for Nambe if we had a place to put it in and restore it. These are some of the things that Head Start, the kids play in. The Head Start building is also here, and some of the smaller children from Nambe participate in that. And we have children from different origins and different races going to school here. That old merry-go-round there is probably as old as the old day school, the mid-30s. And it used to be up there, and then we moved it down here so the kids can go round and round in. This baseball court was built not long ago. It's cracking up real bad. So, but most of this stuff will be moved to the new recreational area if we get it. This is part of the day school again, and the old garage. Some of this old buildings like this one here probably will be converted to office buildings. Like the day school here, some of the living quarters are already been used for offices, or have already been converted. And that's a classroom there. There used to be about 20 children from Nambe going to that school when I was there, and used to be grade 1 through 6th, and one teacher, and she'd get to the first graders, then to the second and third and so forth, and it was quite a thing. I guess she probably didn't sleep at nights worried about the kids, or the kids used to give her a bad time. You know, you have that many grades and that many kids at one time. But it's in a bad state of need for repair. You can't see all the bad things here in this photo, but you can, if you check it closer, and we'll probably get it repaired before we do anything to it. The trees there are probably, well, they are fairly old. They're at least 30 years old. They were put in there after the school was built. But the climate out in this part of the country is very dry, and if plants, trees, and flora doesn't get enough moisture, well, they just kind of tend to disappear. You know, there used to be some lilac bushes there along the sides, and after the school was abandoned or closed down, well, they kind of didn't take care of them, and they just dried up. But $5,000 to develop and build this area to sort of a modern day campground. And there's 6 shelters up there. There's 3 of them are about the same size. 2 of them are big, and the other is kind of in between. They're all made from adobe. This adobes are stabilized adobes and should withstand the weather pretty good. This is at the waterfalls. This one's in the Sangre de Cristos. It's about 25 miles from here to where it originates, under the Santa Fe Baldy. And the crystal clear water is very nice, and people enjoy it quite a bit, and it enhances the use of the area because of the live stream and the campground or picnic ground. Fishing is not very good here, but there is some rainbow trout, and fishing is permitted. It's sort of like any other used area. This is portions of this is the Nambe Valley. Okay, can we start? Okay, we're back at the falls now. Yeah, this area was developed in 74 and 5 with an EDA grant that Nambe got, and we spent approximately 75. The area is known to most of the people as the Nambe Pueblo waterfalls, and the area was developed in 75 and 74 and 1975 through a grant that Nambe got from EDA. 75% of the funds were initially allocated for developing this area, but then it was later decided to spend $100,000, which was a grant from EDA, or the total amount at the falls to develop it. $25,000 of the original grant was going to be used for building or adding onto the community center at the Pueblo, but we got other means of building a solar building now, so that's out of the question. We thought we'd use the other 25% for the waterfalls. This is a mountain on the east side of the falls. In I guess in the Nambe language it's called Pachuping. Nambe River flows right beneath the mountain here, and the stream is flowing west. The Nambe stream is very clear. It originates in the high mountain